Ever feel like you're stuck on that hamster wheel, Just going and going, but not really getting anywhere, like you're capable of way more.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Well, good news, you are in the right spot. Today, we are diving deep into Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. We're going to unlock that potential.
Such a classic, that book. When it came out, it was groundbreaking. And you know what? The wisdom in it still holds up today, even with everything changing so fast.
And that's exactly what we are after. You want to make a real impact, right? But look, before we even crack open those 7 habits, something's been on my mind.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Have you ever thought about how we see the world, like our own perceptions? Could they be holding us back?
It's exactly where Covey starts. He talks about paradigms. You know that optical illusion, the famous one? Is it young woman or an old woman?
Wait, the one with the hat with the feather? Ugh, that one gets me every time. I can never figure it out.
That's the one. It's wild,
Yeah.
right? Most people can only see one of the images at first, even though both are right there.
Yeah.
And that's a huge GE point. It shows how much our perceptions, our paradigms, shape what we see and what we miss.
So it's like we're stuck kind of seeing the world through this limited lens, missing out on opportunities for growth, for connection, everything, really.
Exactly. If we want real effectiveness, we need to shift those deep-seated assumptions, those paradigms.
Okay, so it's not even just about seeing things differently. It's about shifting those really deep assumptions, right?
Yeah.
The paradigms themselves. But how do you actually make that shift happen? How do we break free?
Well, that's where Covey makes this distinction between the personality ethic and the character ethic. The personality ethic, see, that's all about those quick fixes, the charm, the manipulation, that sort of thing. But for real, lasting change, the kind of change that leads to effectiveness, that comes from the character ethic.
Okay, I'm with you so far. So the character ethic, it's less about surface stuff and more about building that strong inner foundation, right? What are some examples of those bedrock principles he's talking about?
Think integrity, honesty, humility, courage, fairness, patience. Those timeless virtues, those are what last.
Right, the things that never go out of style.
Covey would say those principles are the key to unlocking our true potential.
It makes sense. Instead of chasing every trend, trying to copy someone else's success, focus on you, cultivating your character, your inner compass. That really resonates with me. So how do we start to build that strong inner foundation? Where does Covey say we should begin?
He calls the first 3 habits private victories. It's about mastering ourselves before we can even think about effectively leading others. And it all starts with habit 1. Be proactive.
Proactivity, we hear that word everywhere, but what does that actually look like day to day? Give me an example of someone being proactive, not just, saying it.
Okay, imagine this. A stressful situation at work. Maybe a project went totally off the rails.
I know the feeling.
Right. A reactive person, they might just start complaining, blaming others, feeling totally overwhelmed. But someone who's proactive, they acknowledge the situation, but then they focus on what they can control. Their attitude, their effort, how they communicate. They might say something like, okay, this happened. What are our options now? How can we learn from this and actually move forward?
That is a total mindset shift right there. And it's not about ignoring the problem. It's choosing how you're going to respond to it. It reminds me of this one time. I got passed over for a promotion at work.
Oh, I've been there. Rough.
Yeah, and I'll admit, at first, total disappointment.
Yeah.
Even a little bit of, come on, why me?
It's natural.
But then I remembered this whole proactivity thing we're talking about.
Right.
So instead of just stewing about it, feeling sorry for myself, I actually scheduled a meeting with my manager, to figure out what I could improve.
See, that's perfect. Because you chose to focus on what you could control, your own learning, your growth. You actually expanded that circle of influence.
It's true. And you know what? That conversation, it really did open up some doors for me later on.
There you go.
So, okay, let's say we're flexing that proactivity muscle. What's next? What's the next step toward these private victories?
Habit 2. Begin with the end in mind.
Oh,
This one's about vision. You got to define where you want to go before you even start figuring out the how.
So it's like you need to plot your course before you set sail. Otherwise, you're just lost at sea.
Exactly. Covey, he has this intense visualization exercise.
Okay.
He asks you to imagine your own funeral.
Whoa. That got dark.
Right. It's like, what would you want people to say about you? What legacy would you leave behind?
Okay, so it's about figuring out what really matters. in the grand scheme of things.
Right. What impact do you want to have on the world?
That's a lot to process. So how do you go from that, though, to something actually doable?
That's where your personal mission statement comes in.
It's like your compass. Guides your decisions, keeps you on track, lays out your core values, your goals, your own definition of success.
You know, I always thought mission statements were for, like, companies.
Right.
Not people.
Well, it's just as powerful for us as individuals.
So it makes total sense to have that for your own life. Did Covey have any tips on actually, like, writing one?
He said, don't rush it.
Okay, good advice.
Really take time to think about your values, your passions, what brings you joy, what are you naturally good at, what kind of impact do you want to have. Then, once you have that clearer picture, you can start crafting a statement, something concise that captures your essence.
So it's more than just like, here are my goals. It's about connecting them to your values.
Right.
Defining what a fulfilling life even means to you.
100%. And the best part is, it can change as you change.
It's not set in stone. It's a living document.
So we're talking serious soul searching. But let's say we've done all that. We've crafted our mission statement. We know what we're about. How do we make sure we're actually making time for those important things? The ones that aren't always urgent, you know?
That, my friend, is where habit 3 comes in. Put first things first.
All right, bring it on.
This one's about time management. But not just doing things efficiently. It's about doing the right things.
That is so key, though. I'm always feeling busy, but not always productive. Like, my to-do list is a mile long, but am I really making progress on the things that actually matter?
That's what Covey's getting at. He talks about this thing called the time management matrix. Divides tasks into 4 quadrants.
Yeah.
Urgent and important. Not urgent but important. Urgent but not important. And then not urgent and not important.
Okay, I think I'm getting the picture here. Where should we be focusing most of our energy?
The secret sauce is in quadrant 2. The not urgent but important activities. Those are the things that are really going to move the needle on your long-term goals, like planning, building relationships, learning new skills.
Oh, the things that always get pushed aside when things get crazy, right?
Right. But Covey says if you can dedicate more time and energy to quadrant 2, you'll actually have fewer crises and urgent problems popping up in quadrant 1.
It's like you're preventing fires instead of constantly putting them out.
Exactly. You're being proactive with your time.
So smart. But how do we actually do that? Break free from the chaos and make space for those quadrant 2 things.
Plan your week in advance. Block out time for those important but not urgent tasks, just like they were appointments you can't miss. And learn to say no to requests that don't align with your goals.
Boundaries.
Exactly.
Easier said than done. But I'm seeing how these private victories all kind of build on each other.
Right.
Being proactive, knowing your mission, prioritizing. You're building a really solid foundation. But what about when it comes to, other people? This all sounds great for like self-improvement, but how does it work in relationships, especially when things get tough?
That is where the next 3 habits come in. Covey calls them public victories, and they build on everything we've just talked about.
Okay, I am ready for those public victories. Lay it on me. What's first?
So public victories, it all starts with shifting your mindset. Instead of thinking, okay, it's me versus you, you try to find a way for everyone to win. That's Covey's habit 4, think win-win.
Win-win. Sounds good, but is that even possible in real life? I mean, especially when there's conflict, or competition.
It definitely takes practice, but the key is going into any interaction believing there's a solution out there that's good for everybody.
Okay.
It's about tapping into that abundance mentality we talked about earlier. The idea that there is enough to go around.
So instead of just fighting over slices of pie, we figure out how to make a bigger pie.
Now you're getting it.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, Covey. He says it's really important to be okay with walking away.
Walking away. Like no deal.
Yep.
Wouldn't that just mean you're at a standstill, though? Especially in a negotiation?
Not necessarily, no. See, when you're genuinely okay with no deal, it actually puts you in a stronger position. You can be more honest about what you need without feeling pressured to compromise.
Interesting. It's like they say, sometimes walking away, that is the power move. Okay, so we've got that win-win mindset. What's next? How do we keep building those public victories?
Habit 5. This one is all about empathy. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. It means really listening to the other person, not just, waiting for your turn to talk.
Oh, tell me about it. I've been in those conversations where you can practically see the wheels turning in their head while you're talking. They're not really listening, just getting ready to jump in with their 2 cents.
That's it. Empathic listening is totally different. You set aside your own agenda and try to See the world through their eyes. Understand their feelings, their needs, even if you don't agree with them.
Okay, makes sense. But how do you actually do that, especially when you're feeling emotional yourself?
Covey says, pay attention to more than just the words. Their body language, their tone of voice, what's behind the words. Ask questions, make sure you're understanding them, and resist the urge to interrupt or offer advice.
So it's as much about what you don't do as what you do. No interrupting, no judging, no fixing things for them. You just create that space for them to feel heard.
You got it.
Yeah.
And when someone feels heard, they're way more likely to be open to hearing you too.
Yeah.
Which takes us to habit 6, synergize.
Synergy. People say that all the time. But what's it actually mean for relationships?
It means recognizing that when people with different viewpoints, experiences come together with respect, something amazing can happen. They can create something way better than anyone could on their own.
It's not about always agreeing then. It's about using those differences to come up with something new.
Exactly. Covey tells this story about a team project. Really tough one.
I bet.
At first, everyone was stuck in their own heads, arguing for their own ideas. But then they tried something different. They started listening to each other, brainstorming together, really digging in. And that's when things clicked.
So they embraced their differences, worked together, and boom, amazing results.
That's synergy. It's recognizing that everyone has something unique to offer. And by working together, respectfully, you can achieve incredible things.
Powerful stuff.
But here's the catch. All these habits, these public victories, they need fuel. They need you to take care of yourself.
Which brings us to the final habit. Habit 7, sharpen the saw. Love that analogy. It's about taking care of ourselves so we can be the best version of ourselves, right?
Exactly. And Covey makes the point that this isn't selfish. It's essential for everything else. He talks about 4 areas: physical, spiritual, mental, and social.
So more than just like getting enough sleep, although that's important.
Sleep is good.
Yeah.
But think about what else inspires you, recharges you. Being in nature, meditation, reading, maybe it's volunteering or spending time with loved ones. Whatever brings you joy, make it a priority.
Make it non-negotiable. It's true. We have to invest in ourselves so we can show up for others. Our well-being isn't a luxury. It's the foundation.
This has been amazing.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, is there one last thought you want to leave us with? Remember, these 7 habits, it's not about checking boxes. It's a journey, about always trying to improve, to be a little bit better every day. We all have the power to choose how we respond to things, to live a life of purpose. So what habit speaks to you most right now? And what's one small step you could take today to put it into action?
That is something to think about. And that, my friends, is a wrap on another deep dive. We'll see you next time.